Empaths are deeply sensitive people. They feel what others feel, often before a word has even been spoken. In a room full of people, they unconsciously tune into the emotional vibrations around them. They sense pain behind a smile, insecurity beneath arrogance, and longing behind distance. And that's exactly what makes them, paradoxically, so vulnerable to narcissistic partners. Because narcissists emit strong signals. They appear charismatic, confident, sometimes almost hypnotically magnetic. In the beginning, they're attentive, charming, and seemingly ideal. That polished facade is exactly what draws the empath in. Why? Because empaths have a deep longing to heal. They believe they see behind the mask, or at least want to. They feel, there's someone with a wound here, and they want to tend to it. What feels like love at first is often the beginning of a dynamic full of emotional confusion. The narcissist mirrors back the perfect counterpart. It feels like destiny. The connection is intense. The narcissist quickly notices how sensitive the empath is and uses this to their advantage. Compliments, attention, closeness, all given, but never without conditions. It's a stage, and soon the empath begins to lose themselves in the performance. What many don't realize, this type of relationship is rarely random. It's an unconscious magnetism. The empath's silent hope to heal the broken meets the narcissist's inner need to define themselves through others. A toxic symbiosis emerges. Both get something they crave. The narcissist receives validation. The empath finds meaning. But reality soon follows. The connection shifts. The empath starts to doubt, to suffer, to give. The narcissist begins to demand, to devalue, to manipulate. The balance collapses. But the empath clings to the ideal from the beginning. They want to return to the person they thought they knew. And that's what makes this cycle so dangerous. Once an empath has committed to someone, they don't love superficially. Their bond is deep, compassionate, and driven by the internal desire to bring out the best in the other person. And that's what makes it so difficult to leave a narcissistic relationship. Because the empath believes, I can help. I can save them. I can heal this. Narcissists understand this pattern instinctively. They sense that their partner is willing to give, even when it hurts. And they exploit it. Subtly or overtly, they manage to make themselves the center of everything. The empath's needs begin to fade into the background. This doesn't happen overnight, it creeps in. A subtle jab here, a demeaning comment there. The empath begins to question themselves. Their worth, their perception, their dignity. And this is where the emotional trap sets in. The empath, who only wanted to help, becomes the invisible carrier of the relationship. They compensate, excuse, justify, often even to friends and family. People on the outside ask, why does she stay? Why does he put up with this? The answer lies deep in psychology. Because the empath doesn't just love, they believe love can heal everything, even what has already become destructive. That belief is often rooted in childhood. Many empaths learned early on to suppress their own needs in order to preserve harmony. They were praised for being caring, not for setting boundaries. Narcissistic partners activate these old patterns. They demand loyalty, understanding, and devotion, while offering very little in return. And the empath, haunted by the fear of never being enough, gives more and more until nothing is left. But the most tragic part is this. The more the empath suffers, the stronger the emotional bond becomes. Pain is mistaken for depth. If it hurts this much, it must be real, the empath thinks. And that's the illusion. Because love does not mean losing yourself. And healing does not come through self-erasure. A central element in the dynamic between empaths and narcissists is hope. The hope that things will change. That the loving person from the beginning will return. That all the pain had a purpose. This hope isn't naive. It's deeply rooted in the empath's inner worldview. Empaths often believe in the good in people. They think in possibilities rather than facts. When someone behaves toxically, they don't immediately see it as malice, but as a sign of inner wounding. And that's where the danger lies. The narcissist doesn't need to change, because the empath takes on that task. Emotionally, mentally, and often practically. They excuse the behavior, they rationalize outbursts, they search for reasons. and narcissists provide the perfect soil for this dynamic, a cycle of idealization and devaluation. At times, there are tender moments, gestures of closeness, signs of softening. Then comes the withdrawal, the coldness, the emotional cruelty. This roller coaster acts like a drug. In psychology, it's called trauma bonding, a state in which love becomes entangled with pain. The empath becomes addicted to the rare highs because they feel like redemption. What the empath often overlooks. These highs are not proof of growth. They're part of the manipulation. The narcissist knows exactly when to give just enough to keep the empath hooked. It's like a soul-level contract. You suffer, but I won't let you go entirely. And it's precisely this gray zone that makes it so difficult to make clear decisions. To complicate things further, there's an inner conflict. If the empath leaves, it feels like failure, like giving up, like betraying someone they once set out to save. Many empaths carry a kind of inner vow to never abandon someone in pain. But in doing so, they often forget themselves, their own needs, their own limits. It takes a great deal of awareness to see through this dynamic, and even more strength to break free from it. Because as long as the illusion remains, that love is enough to change destructive behavior, the empath will keep returning, hoping this time it will be different. The good news is, this dynamic doesn't have to be your destiny. Empaths can learn to stop turning their sensitivity against themselves and start using it wisely and consciously. It begins with a powerful realization. Not every pain is a sign of deep love. Sometimes it's just proof of imbalance. Empaths don't need to grow a thicker skin. They need clarity about their own boundaries. Because as long as their compassion flows only outward and never inward, it remains unhealthy. When you constantly put your own needs last, you eventually lose touch with yourself. And that's exactly what happens in narcissistic relationships. The empath becomes a shadow of themselves while the narcissist never shares the spotlight. What helps many is reclaiming their space, emotionally, physically, and mentally. Journaling, inner dialogue, therapy, support groups, anything that helps make your inner voice audible again. Because often it's still there, quiet but clear. You deserve more. Acknowledging that truth isn't selfish, it's an act of healing. Another essential step is recognizing manipulation tactics. Gaslighting, love bombing, blame shifting. Once you've seen these patterns clearly, it's much easier to spot them next time. And when the mask slips, so does the illusion. It hurts, but it also frees. Because only when you see, can you choose. And only when you choose can you walk away. One of the most important truths to embrace. Empathy is not a weakness. It's a gift, as long as it doesn't cost you yourself. A healthy empath understands that real love doesn't just give, it receives. That respect isn't a reward, it's a right. And that healing doesn't come from saving others, but from finally choosing yourself. Those who free themselves from a toxic relationship will never be the same. They'll be stronger, wiser, sharper, and equipped with a new kind of compassion, not just for others but finally for themselves. And that may just be the greatest gift born from such a painful experience.